In a significant policy shift, the Biden administration has signaled its approval for Israel to conduct strikes on Iran if deemed necessary. This development underscores a new chapter in the ever-evolving dynamics of U.S.-Israel relations and Middle Eastern geopolitics. For years, the U.S. has maintained a delicate balance between supporting its ally, Israel, and pursuing diplomatic channels to manage Iran's nuclear ambitions. However, recent events have pushed Washington to reassess its stance. The move comes amid rising tensions and growing concerns over Iran's nuclear program. This essay delves into the rationale behind this decision, the historical context, and the potential repercussions for Middle Eastern geopolitics. The primary concern driving this policy is Iran's nuclear program, which has been a point of contention for decades. The US and Israel fear that Iran's development of nuclear capabilities could lead to the creation of nuclear weapons. Such an outcome would significantly alter the balance of power in the Middle East, posing a direct threat to both nations. Israel's concerns are particularly acute. Geographically close to Iran, Israel views a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat. The Iranian government's hostile rhetoric towards Israel and its support for militant groups like Hezbollah exacerbate these fears. The 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, was a significant attempt to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions through negotiation. However, the Trump administration's withdrawal from the deal in 2018 and Iran's subsequent resumption of nuclear activities have reignited fears. This latest policy indicates a shift from patience with diplomacy to a readiness to support more direct actions. The tension between Israel and Iran is not new. It dates back to the 1979 Iranian Revolution, which replaced a pro-Western monarchy with an Islamic republic that adopted an anti-Israel stance. Over the years, this enmity has manifested in various forms, from proxy conflicts to cyber warfare. One of the most notable instances of this tension was the 2006 Lebanon War, where Israel fought Hezbollah, a militant group backed by Iran. This conflict highlighted the indirect yet intense nature of Israeli-Iranian hostilities. More recently, the Syrian civil war has seen both nations operating on opposing sides, further straining relations. Israel has repeatedly expressed its willingness to act unilaterally to prevent Iran from becoming a nuclear power. This stance has led to several covert operations, including cyber attacks and targeted assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists. The U.S.'s recent policy shift supports these measures, indicating a unified front against the perceived Iranian threat. President Biden came into office with a promise to restore diplomacy and rebuild alliances. One of his key foreign policy goals was to reinstate the JCPOA and bring Iran back to the negotiating table. However, this diplomatic approach has faced significant challenges. Despite efforts to revive the nuclear deal, Iran's compliance has been inconsistent. The Biden administration has sought to balance its diplomatic pursuits with a show of strength, ensuring that Iran understands the consequences of non-compliance. While Biden prefers a diplomatic solution, the readiness to support Israeli strikes serves as a deterrent. The coordination between the U.S. and Israel involves extensive intelligence sharing and joint military exercises. This military readiness complements the diplomatic efforts, creating a comprehensive approach to addressing Iran's nuclear ambitions. Section 5. Potential consequences of an Israeli strike. An Israeli strike on Iran would have profound consequences for regional security. Such an action would likely trigger a significant military response from Iran, potentially drawing in other regional actors. The immediate aftermath would see heightened military activity and possibly a full-scale conflict. Iran has a network of allies and proxy groups across the Middle East, including Hezbollah in Lebanon and various militias in Iraq and Syria. These groups could retaliate against Israel and U.S. interests in the region. Beyond the immediate military implications, an Israeli strike could disrupt global oil markets. The Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point for global oil shipments, could become a flashpoint. Any disruption in oil supplies could have severe economic repercussions worldwide. The political fallout would also be significant, potentially undermining U.S. diplomatic efforts and alienating key allies. Section 6. Broader implications for U.S. foreign policy. The decision to greenlight Israeli strikes on Iran reflects a broader shift in U.S. foreign policy. It suggests a more assertive stance in dealing with perceived threats, moving away from a purely diplomatic approach. This shift has implications not just for the Middle East, but for U.S. relations with other global powers. For allies in the region, this policy reassures them of U.S. commitment to their security. It strengthens alliances with nations like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, who also view Iran as a threat. However, it also complicates relations with European allies who prefer a diplomatic resolution to the nuclear issue. The policy could strain U.S. relations with Russia and China, both of whom have ties with Iran. Domestically, the policy shift might face criticism from those who advocate for diplomacy and caution against military intervention. Section 7. Risks of wider regional conflict. The risk of a wider regional conflict cannot be understated. An Israeli strike on Iran could act as a catalyst, igniting long-standing rivalries and unresolved conflicts across the Middle East. The region is already a tinderbox with multiple flashpoints that could escalate rapidly. One of the primary risks is the involvement of non-state actors and proxy groups. Iran's influence extends through various militias and organizations that could launch retaliatory attacks. This network of proxies could target not just Israel, but also U.S. forces and interests in the region, leading to a protracted and multifaceted conflict. Another risk is the potential for miscalculations and unintended escalations. Military strikes carry the inherent danger of missteps that could spiral out of control. The humanitarian impact would also be severe, with significant casualties and displacement. Section 8. Conclusion. The U.S. policy shift allowing Israeli strikes on Iran marks a significant development in Middle Eastern geopolitics. It reflects a growing impatience with diplomatic efforts and a willingness to consider military options. The concerns over Iran's nuclear program are legitimate and pressing. However, the potential repercussions of a military strike are profound and far-reaching. Balancing diplomatic solutions with military preparedness is crucial to navigating this complex issue. In this delicate balance lies the hope for a more stable and secure Middle East.